Today's lesson is solving percent problems using proportions. Our Indiana Academic Standard is 7.2.3. We're going to be looking at setting up a proportion. You guys are used to solving proportions. We did that for the entire chapter that we just finished. So our proportion is going to look like this. We're going to put part over whole equals percent over 100. And I'm going to tell you where all of these pieces come from. The percent is very, very simple. It's if you see any number with the percent sign after it, that would be your percent in the problem. The whole is always going to come after the word of. And the part is not after the word of and doesn't have a percent. So as we go through these, I think it'll make a little bit more sense. But remember, whole comes after the word of, and percent has a percent sign in the problem. Once you identify those two, then it's easy to figure out if you know the third part, which is the part. Let's take a look at the first one, finding a percent. What percent of 25 is 5? We know right away that we're trying to find the percent, so that's going to be our variable. In this case, they're always using n. That's fine with me if you want to use that. The whole comes after the word of. In this problem, we have of 25. So we're going to put 25 on the bottom of the first ratio. 5 is our part, so that's going to go on the top. We're finding 5 out of 25 so that we can figure out what the percent is. Now, you're going to cross multiply and divide to find that. So you end up with n equaling 20%. Now let's look at the second one, finding a part. What is 20% of 25? We know the percent is 20%, so we're going to fill that in above our 100. We have the word of, and following that is 25. So we're trying to find n. We're trying to find the part, which goes on the top of the first proportion. So we have n over 25 equals 20 over 100. Again, we can cross multiply and divide, and we find out that n is 5. Now taking a look at the last one, finding a whole. 20% of what is 5? Well, we know the 20%. We fill that in over the 100. We do not know what is the whole because we're trying to find that. It says of what. So our whole is going to be our variable, and our 5 is our part, and that goes on the top. Again, you cross multiply and divide, and you figure out that the whole is 25. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Don't forget to record a question. You may not have had a question in the last set of notes, but you're probably going to have a question on this set, so don't forget to write it down. As soon as you have a question, write it down. Even if you figure out the answer later to it, write the question down as soon as you have it. Let's try example number 1, finding a percent. What percent of 150 is 45? You can write a proportion to find the percent. We're going to do it off to the side or down below a little bit because the notes require a lot of extra steps, and we're going to try to shortcut these as much as we can. So we start off by looking at the first ratio. Remember, the first ratio is part over whole. Whole follows the word of, so we're going to put 150 on the bottom of our first ratio. We're going to leave the top blank for right now. Then we're going to set up the second part of our ratio. That's going to be our percent over 100. We do not know our percent, so that's going to be n, and it goes over 100. So we're left with the number 45. 45 is our part because it is not our percent and it is not following the word of. So we have 45 over 150 equals n over 100. Now we're ready to cross multiply. 45 times 100 is 4,500, and 150 times n is 150n. Now, as I showed you last week, I'm going to let you shortcut it, and you don't have to actually show me 45 times 100. You can just write down the 4,500. Now we're ready to divide both sides by 150. 4,500 divided by 150 is 30. And since we were finding the percent, it would be 30%. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Quick check number 1. What percent of 92 is 23? We need to set up our ratio. We have a number after the word of, so we know that that's our whole. That's going to go on the bottom of the first ratio. We're trying to find the percent, so our second ratio is going to be n over 100, because remember the second ratio is the percent over 100. So 23 is what we have left, and that is our part. That's going to go above your 92. Now we're ready to cross multiply. 100 times 23 is 2,300. 92 times x, or n, is 92n. Now we're ready to divide both sides by 92. So we have 2,300 divided by 92 and 92n over 92. 25%. So what percent of 92 is 23? 25% of 92 is 23. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Don't forget to record a question. You may not have had a question in the last set of notes, but you're probably going to have a question on this set, so don't forget to write it down. As soon as you have a question, write it down. Even if you figure out the answer later to it, write the question down as soon as you have it. Finding a part. 24% of 25 is what number? So we know our percent and we know our whole because we know the number after the word of. So we're trying to find the part. So we're going to have n over 25 equals 24 over 100. We're going to cross multiply, so we get 100n equals 600. Now we're ready to divide both sides by 100. On the left-hand side, we're left with n. 600 divided by 100 on the right-hand side is 6. So 24% of 25 is 6. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Don't forget to record a question. You may not have had a question in the last set of notes, but you're probably going to have a question on this set, so don't forget to write it down. As soon as you have a question, write it down. Even if you figure out the answer later to it, write the question down as soon as you have it. Number 3, finding the whole. Use a proportion to answer the question, 117 is 45% of what number? We don't know the number after the word of, so that's going to be our variable. So the ratio on the left-hand side is going to have n on the bottom. Now we know the percent, it's 45%. The second ratio can be written as 45 over 100. The part is what we're given, it's 117. So we have 117 over n equals 45 over 100. Cross multiply. 100 times 117 is 11,700. n times 45 is 45n. Divide both sides of the equation by 45. 11,700 divided by 45 is 260. The 45s on the right cancel each other out, so we know that 117 is 45% of 260. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Don't forget to record a question. You may not have had a question in the last set of notes, but you're probably going to have a question on this set, so don't forget to write it down. As soon as you have a question, write it down. Even if you figure out the answer later to it, write the question down as soon as you have it. Let's try quick check number 2 together. 85% of 20 is what number? We're going to write down that little phrase from the beginning. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Add that in your notes. It probably wouldn't hurt to write that on your homework when you go to do your homework. In this particular problem, we know the percent, 85%. So we're going to write that on the top of the second ratio over 100. We also know the whole because the whole follows the word of. 20 is our whole, so that's going to go on the bottom of the first ratio. What we don't know is the part, so that's going to be our variable. So we have n over 20 equals 85 over 100. Now we're ready to cross multiply. 100 times n is 100n. 20 times 85 is 1,700. Divide both sides by 100, so on the left you're left with n, and on the right you have 17. So 85% of 20 is 17. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Quick check number 3. Your math teacher assigns 25 problems for homework. You have done 60% of them. How many problems have you done? We're going to set this problem up again. Part over whole equals percent over 100. We're going to fill in the things we know. We know the percent. It's 60%. So we're going to put 60 over 100. Now it says 60% of them. Them is going to be our whole. We have to figure out if we know it. Do we know what them is? Well, them is the 25 problems of homework. You have to use your English skills here. So 25 is going to be our whole, even though it doesn't directly follow the word of. And what we don't know is the part. We have n over 25 equals 60 over 100. Cross multiply. 100 times n is 100n, and 25 times 60 is 1,500. Divide both sides by 100. On the left, you will just have n left, and 1,500 divided by 100 is 15. So how many problems do you have done? You have 15 problems done. Pause the video at this time if you need more time to copy down these notes. Don't forget to record a question. You may not have had a question in the last set of notes, but you're probably going to have a question on this set, so don't forget to write it down. As soon as you have a question, write it down. Even if you figure out the answer later to it, write the question down as soon as you have it.